Well, good morning, and thanks for joining us today for the second session of EPA's third three-part Census Bureau Media Webinar Series. Today's session will focus on Census Bureau data tools for everyone. During today's webinar, everyone is muted. Questions as we go along, please type them in the Q&A section or the chat section on your screen, and the presenters will get to them at the end. Now I'd like to turn this over to Susan Joe.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Census Bureau presentation, Census Bureau Resources for the Media Part 2. Dina, thank you so much. Next slide, please, Joe. We certainly do appreciate your time, and it is a pleasure to be with you on behalf of the United States Census Bureau. And today you'll hear from myself, but more importantly, my colleague Joe Cortullo, our data dissemination specialist. And just briefly, as you know, the U.S. Census Bureau is the principal agency of the U.S. federal statistical system, and we're responsible for producing data about the American people and economy. Now, the Census Bureau is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, and our director is appointed by the President of the United States. And as you can see on the slide from the bird's eye view, the Census Bureau has 6 regions across the U.S., and our regional office is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the region includes the states of Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. And Joe and I are your contacts for the Philadelphia region. And we work directly with you, our media, to share news from the Census Bureau, receive your inquiries for information, interviews, and requests for subject matter experts. As well, we coordinate to provide you with hyperlocal data or statistical information with our Census headquarters team in Suitland, Maryland. As we get started, Joe will feature a live demonstration of the data tools for you. And we will also create a fictitious storyline that will kind of mirror what you may be working on or perhaps have on your publication calendar. And we'll pull a city or town for reference, and Joe will be able to show you how to find and use that data to add depth to your story. So as we continue, please feel free to send us any questions via email or through phone call. We are happy to take your questions. And certainly any questions regarding data quality, methodology, or any pending litigation should be directed to our Public Information Office, and that is at pio@census.gov. Next slide, please. And so what we'll cover in this session is just a little bit about the Census Bureau. We did the deeper dive look in our first session. We'll briefly go over how to request an interview with the Census Bureau subject matter experts, how to cite the Census Bureau after Joe gives you all of that wonderful information and you want to use it in your stories. Joe will then go over our data products and tools, including quick facts, briefly touching on the American Community Survey, because our next session, session 3, will go into depth about the American Community Survey. Joe will also talk about data.census.gov, as well as maybe some other little tools and goodies that he has up his sleeve. We'll then wrap up with how to connect with the Census Bureau and Q&A as well. Next slide, please. So before I turn it over to Joe, I do want to mention that it is always important for your reader or your audience to know where your information came from. And briefly on the slide, you can see how to cite Census Bureau data. And next slide, please. And of course, we welcome your requests for an interview or a subject matter. Now, we do ask your name and the outlet you represent. We'll certainly gather your contact information and your deadline. If you are on a, say, 6 p.m. today deadline, we will work to prioritize that deadline. We do ask that you be honest and truthful with us, because we know there are stories that are breaking news and others that, can be in development for quite some time. So we want to make sure that we do prioritize those ones that are on deadline, but we give it all requests 100% of our time and attention. We will also ask if the piece is live, recorded, or part of a story with other contributors, perhaps in your community. We'll also ask you for a general line of questions or the topic, and to be as detailed as possible. And we ask this because when we're dealing with data, oftentimes we do have to pull in subject matter experts, or as Joe is, a data dissemination specialist, or perhaps a geographer. So we want to ensure that we have the right expert to address your question in detail. And that also reduces the time of us going back and forth with you through many phone calls or emails just to get to that specific line of questions. So we will ask for that line of questions. We also can provide that line of questions to you as well. We understand that not everybody is familiar with the level of detail that is available with the Census Bureau. So we can also give you some of those ideas as well for a robust line of questions. You'll see on the slide in the lower right, it is a hyperlink for news media handout B-roll, as well as still photos that correspond with the 2020 census as that data continues to come out. There's some great imagery and visualizations that go along with it, as well as B-roll. You are free to use that. And again, just please cite the US Census Bureau when you do use any of those digital assets. Next slide, please. And so with that said, it is now time to get into the data. It is my pleasure to turn the floor over to Joe Cortula, our data dissemination specialist. Joe, the floor is now yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan, and thank you everyone for joining in today or listening to on the recording. I'm going to be talking about census data sources and census data tools, two different things. The data sources are the surveys and the censuses where we collect the data, and the tools are the places where we go to find the data so that we can work with it and analyze it and tear it apart and chop it up, whatever we need to do. So I wanted to start out with this slide to show you that Census Quick Facts is a data tool, and that we're going to be looking at that in a minute. So that's a tool that you could get a lot of information in a quick way about any state or county or city or town, as long as the population is 5,000 or more. And you can see that it's detailed in the different types of data that it provides. The American Community Survey, on the other hand, is a data source. It's a very large survey, as it says, 3.5 million households a year. It's a sampling of addresses in the United States, as well as DC and Puerto Rico. And it asks a lot of questions, approximately 40 different questions on each person or the household on different topics. Those topics are not collected in the Decennial Census, which we just completed, the 2020 census. So that's one of the values of the American Community Survey. It's a lot more detailed, it provides a lot more topics. And the other good thing about it, well, a couple other good things about it. It comes out annually, whereas the other census, the Decennial Census, is decennially every 10 years, and it provides data at small geographic levels. Susan used the word hyperlocal. I say small geographic levels is what I call that. Hyperlocal is a good term, though. And then so that's the American Community Survey, and you're familiar, hopefully, with the 2020 census that we just completed. That's the census that we're required to do every 10 years based on the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2. It's a count of every person in a large sample. The Decennial Census it doesn't have nearly as many topics. It only asks some demographic questions about each person, like age, sex, race, whether or not each person is Hispanic, and whether or not the household is owned or rented. Doesn't ask anything about education or employment or anything. So in order to get that data, we have to look at the American Community Survey. And then you probably already know that the census is in addition to providing the official count of the nation's population, that count is used to redistribute or reallocate the seats in the House of Representatives every 10 years. And also, the states take that data and use it to redistribute their state legislative seats and state senatorial seats. So, and school districts and lots of other people use that data for a variety of reasons, but it really doesn't have a lot of topics to it, the decennial census. So we're going to look at both of these here as we go through our examples. I'm going to continue with the slides, and then I'll go over to the website for the live demonstration. When we go to Quick Facts, you can see that the website is www.census.gov, and it's exactly what it says, a bunch of quick facts about the geography that you may be interested in. But it also provides some simple to use maps and charts. So in addition to looking at the data on a table, you could quickly convert that into a thematic map or a chart. And we will look at that in a minute. The one caveat again about quick facts is that small towns and cities are not in there. So anything with population of 5,000 or more are not included. However, the other tool that I'm going to show you, data.census.gov, you can get data for small towns and cities. I mentioned also the American Community Survey, and I should tell you a little bit more about it, as we know that we're going to have another presentation strictly on that, but it's a really large survey of 3.5 million households a year, which is approximately a 2.5% survey each year. It covers the entire United States, and it provides us with estimates of all those topics that we talked about, education and income, and whether or not housing unit is owned, and areas that collect percentage of areas in specific areas that collect food stamps, and a lot of other information about the social, economic, and housing characteristics of the United States. So it's sent out in a letter. Households receive a letter, and they're asked to complete the survey online. About 50% of them do that. And then for those that don't, after a couple of reminders, they are mailed a paper questionnaire. We give them an opportunity to complete the survey by paper. And then for those that don't complete the survey by paper, we send someone to the household to collect the data. So this is going on all the time, year round, I should say, around the decade. It's not only going on the year that ends at 0 with the decennial census, but so we're collecting data every year, and we provide data every year. So you might be wondering a little bit more detail, what does the American Community Survey, what data does it collect? And this is a more comprehensive list of that data. For example, if you needed data on grandparents, you can get the data on grandparents that live in the home with their grandchildren, and then you can go further and get grandparents that live in the home with their grandchildren and are responsible for the grandchildren financially and other ways. So you can get that kind of data in the American Community Survey. You wouldn't be able to get that in the census. If you needed to get information on marital status in a specific area, for example, what percentage of the men are single or divorced or separated or never married, you can get that from the American Community Survey, because there's a question on the survey that asks specifically about each person whether or not they're married. That is, each person over 15 years old. You can get information on migration, meaning how many people moved into a specific area in the past year. You can get that information as well. How many children are enrolled in school? What is the educational attainment in an area? You can see that some areas may have a high percentage of college graduates, and some areas have a low percentage of college graduates. You can get that from the American Community Survey, and you can look at that at the county level or the city level, or even all the way down to the small neighborhood type level, which we refer to as the Census Tract. So all of those items listed in the social category there on the left side are available in the American Community Survey, as well as, I should mention, also veterans. data on veterans. The demographic section here is collected in the American Community Survey, but that's basically the information that's collected in the census as well. But we do update it, get it collected every time we conduct the American Community Survey, and so that we're able to provide that data on an annual basis, as well as the Decennial Census providing it every 10 years. And then we collect a lot of information about households, the economic characteristics of households and of areas. For example, do people commute to work? If so, how do they commute? Was it a bus, taxi, drive alone, etc.? How long does it take for them to get to work? That's a question asked in the American Community Survey. So people that are interested in traffic patterns and other, maybe environmental issues, they may want to know, what is the average commute in a specific city, or what is the average commute in a specific county? You can find that information in the American Community Survey. Of course, employment status, the percent that work and the percent that do not work. You can get information on the percentage and number of households that collect food stamps, health insurance, and income as well. So if you need the median household income, that's a popular data point that we often get questioned about. Median household income for a specific area, that's available also. And then finally, there's questions on the housing unit itself. Is there a computer in the household? Does it have access to the internet? So if you wanted to compare percentages about in different areas of a city or a county or a state, about what percentage of areas has internet access, internet use, you can get that from the ACS. What type of heating fuel is used? Gas, electric, etc. What is the value of the homes? And you can get the median housing value from the American Community Survey. How many rooms in each home? Is the home owned or rented? How many utilities are associated with the home? How many vehicles are associated with the home, and what is the cost of utilities? So all this information is available all the way down to the small geographic level that we call the census tracts and block groups in the American Community Survey. So this makes it, and it comes out annually, and so that makes it, in a way, gives us a lot more information than just the decennial census. But the decennial census is important, and we're going to look at that as well. The other data tool that you can get lots of data for, all of this American Community Survey, and I'll show you this in a minute too, is data.census.gov. And we can do more sophisticated mapping than quick facts. So this is another data tool, and it's much more comprehensive in the information that you can get from it. Now I'm going to back up here. I want to go now to show you the quick facts, this tool that we have, updated.census.gov, and another tool that has some decennial census information. And then I want to try to save time if we have any questions, or Susan may have some scenarios for us that we could pull data for, so that you could use it as an example. So if you allow me a second to go over to my quick facts page, and you may remember, but the website is www.census.gov/quickfacts. And when we go to quick facts, we get a lot of facts about the default geography here, which is the United States. So we can look at some of the facts that are available in quick facts. We have a variety of different population counts and estimates. And here's an interesting one. This is for the United States, the decennial census, and we know it's the decennial census because it says 2010 here. This was the count of Americans, or rather people living in the United States in 2010, and you can see that in the past decade. That's kind of time maybe in the past spring, and it's from the decennial census. So we could also get some demographic information, like where, percentage of children, percentage of seniors. I'm just going to skip through some of these. Percentage of females. Usually you find that to be slightly above 50%. And as the age category goes up, the percentage of females increases. Then we have some racial and Hispanic demographic information. So we would see the percentage of Hispanics in the United States, 18.5%. That would be the largest minority. And as far as the racial categories, you can see the percentage of white and African American and Native American, Asians, and Native Hawaiian, other Pacific Islanders. This is a category that we just started collecting in 2000, whether or not a person could identify as more than one race, because prior to that, we didn't give as an option to select more than one race. So now that is available, and it was available in the census as well as the American Community Survey. And that number seems to be, it's small, but it's going up. We're watching it go up every 10 years. We'll see that go up. Then the number of veterans, and we know this is from the American Community Survey data because it says 2015 to 2019. So it shows a 5-year period. And for the American Community Survey, we provide data for the previous year, and we provide data for the previous 5 years. This is the 5-year data. So during the 2015 to 2019 data collection period, 18 million veterans were counted in the United States, and the percentage of foreign-born. But the Quick Facts also gives us information on housing. Here's the median value, I should say, of owner-occupied housing in the United States during that period was 2017 500. And this number comes from the actual respondents of the survey. It doesn't come from Zillow or anything like that. It comes from the actual respondents of the survey. They're asked, what is the median? What do you think is the value of your housing unit? And then that's the average there. Continuing with that, there's also median gross rent. So the median gross rent in the United States was a little bit more than $1,000 during that time period. If you look at that for Manhattan, it's going to be much higher. And if you look at that for, say, rural area in Southwest Virginia, it'll be much lower. Continuing, there's information on families and living arrangements. There's information on, as I mentioned earlier, on computer and internet use. And again, this comes from the ACS, the American Community Survey. So we have seen this trend going up in the past, over the past 10 or 15 years too. Households with a computer and households with internet subscription. Continuing, there's data on education. Not real detailed, but enough data to, if you needed a quick fact, like what percentage of Americans have a bachelor's degree. I should say Americans 25 and over. What percentage of Americans have a bachelor's degree? 32%. Another statistic that has been increasing. A little bit of information on health and disability. Some information on economic information. Some of this comes from the ACS, but some of these other data points come from the economic surveys that we conduct. And then, of course, I mentioned that there's a question on how long does it take you to get to work. So this is what that would look like. What is the mean travel time to work? It's about 27 minutes. Now, this is 2015 to 2019 data. So I'm curious when we get to look at the 2020 data, what that will look like, because a lot of people, as you know, have been working from home. So that's probably going to change significantly. The median household income, again, this statistic comes from the respondents themselves. So we asked, what is the income in this household? And then this is the average of it for the United States. There's also information on businesses, which I'm not going to really spend too much time on, but you could see the total employer established in the United States, employer establishment, 7 million. A lot of people don't realize, and they would be establishments that have one or more paid employees, almost 8 million. But a lot of people don't realize there's a lot more non-employer establishments, and these are businesses that don't have any paid employees. So there's a lot more non-employer establishments, or we could say small businesses, than there are employer establishments, which have someone that they pay on their payroll. And finally, there's some information about geography. So this is what Quick Facts gives us, but we've only been looking at the United States, so we can take this and add other geographies to it, and we can also do other things with it. But first, we'll add Virginia as its state. So, and then we'll get right next to the United States, we'll get the same data, but for Virginia. So you can see Virginia, the state of Virginia, the population increased over the past 10 years from one decennial census to the next by about a little bit more than 600,000 people. And then you can see the same statistics and compare the U.S. statistics to the statistics of Virginia. Some you'll see exactly the same, like this. Just happens to be percentage of females, 50.8. But then you'll see other statistics that are a lot different. For example, let's look at one here, percent Hispanic. Virginia as a state has about half the Hispanics in terms of percent than the U.S. does as a whole. So you can see Virginia slightly under 10% and the U.S. 18.5. You see the number of veterans in Virginia, and you can see the number of foreign-born persons, which is similar, somewhat similar to the foreign-born persons in the U.S. The median gross rent is higher in the state, and the median value of owner-occupied housing here is higher in the state, as well as when we get down to the income down here. The median household income is higher in Virginia than it is in the U.S. So, and you can make other comparisons here as well. So this is one of the good things about Quick Facts. You can do different geographies side by side. Let's go a little further and put in Chesterfield County. Look at some data at the county level. Now we have Chesterfield County, Virginia, and we could see the statistics for Chesterfield County. A higher, from 2010 to a 2019 estimate, a much higher percentage of population increase than both the nation and the state, almost double. So Chesterfield County's been growing at a higher rate than the state and the nation. It's one easy thing we can point out. You can look further for differences in Chesterfield County. You can see differences in racial categories and let's see, Hispanics, similar to the state, about half of the U.S. average. And we can also see the number of veterans in the Chesterfield County. Percentage of foreign-born is lower. We talked about median housing value. So here's the median housing value, owner-occupied housing. It's higher than the nation, but lower than the state. And we can see other information about Chesterfield in this leftmost column here. Households with a computer, a little bit higher than the nation. Education, higher. We could say from this, we could say that Chesterfield County is more education, has a higher educational attainment. That's the word I'm looking for. Higher educational attainment than both the nation and the state. Almost 40, well, actually a little bit more than 40% of adults 25 and older in the county have a bachelor's degree. And you can see how that compares to the nation and the states. The state of Virginia and other information as well. Let's look at the median household income. That's even higher than the nation and the state. So we could see that here. And finally, we look a little bit more at business data and geographic data. So these are some of the things that you can do with Quick Facts. You can add cities as well. Let's put in Charlottesville. Oops, sorry here. In a city. So, and you can make comparisons. You could have up to 6 columns in here. And if you don't want something, you can just exit out and then you'll have a bit of opportunity to add up to 3 more columns. So this is one of the good things about Quick Facts. You know, you can put next to each other different geographies, different geographic levels. Another good thing about it is that you can take any one of these data points and look at them in a map form. So, for example, I'm going to select the fact here. These are the same facts that we just looked at. I'm going to go back to median household income. And when I did that, you'll see that, let's see, select the fact, we want income, and we want median household income. Okay, we're here. So median household income is now at the top of the chart. It jumped up to the top of the chart. So if we wanted to compare Chesterfield County to the other counties in Virginia in terms of the median household income, but instead of looking at every single county and writing it down or putting it on a spreadsheet, we could easily turn that data into a map. So all we got to do here is click on map and click on, we want it at the county level, so we'll click on Chesterfield County. We're going to get a map of all the counties in the state. Let me zoom, give a good zoom here, and then we'll take it down here. You can see this is now a thematic map. In other words, the colors mean something, and we're talking about income here. So here you can see that all of the darker counties up here in the northeastern part of the state make at least $61,000 a year median household income. But when we go to the southwestern part of the state, we could see that there's counties down here that make significantly less. And when we click on each county, we can see the data for that county. So clicking on this county, which is Scott County, the median household income is about $40,000 a year. Here's Grayson County, median household income $36,000 a year. But when we come up here, especially in the area close to the District of Columbia, we could see that the median household income in Fairfax is $124,000. So that's why it's a darker color. It's in the higher range here. So all these counties up here are at least 61,000. And then all the counties down here, the very light ones, are less than 41,000, looking at the legend here. And then you have counties in between. So you have Campbell County, for example, and Lunenburg County. So this is a quick way, using quick facts, this is a quick way to take a data point, median household income in this example, and turn it into a thematic map and get a better idea of what's going on around the state. That's just one fact. We can change the fact to any of the other facts that we've been looking at. Let's look at percent Hispanic. So you can see that's now the theme of our map, percent Hispanic. It changed. And we can see that the percent Hispanic is low in the southwestern part of the state and all of this western part of the state and a couple of the southern counties. And then we have the percent Hispanic when we get closer to DC again, 16% of Fairfax. And some of these down here have one less than 2%, even less than 1%. So again, anything down here with the very light blue is less than 2.25, and anything up here with the darker blue is at least 14%. I'm looking at the legend down here to get that. So this is what you can do with quick facts. And if you want to, instead of let's go back to the table. Instead of mapping the counties, if you want to map the states, it's easy. You got everything there already. So you just click map. And instead of going to Chesterfield County, I'm going to click on the state, and now I'll get the states in the U.S. median household income. I'm sorry, percent Hispanic. We're looking at percent Hispanic. Same thing as far as, let's bring it down close to the legend. As you would imagine, the counties in the Southwest, Texas over, have a higher percentage of Hispanics. New Mexico is almost half of Hispanic. Texas 40%. California almost 40% as well. And then when you come up here, you could see that Montana and the Dakotas and Maine, they have a really low percentage of Hispanics. So as far as distribution of Hispanics around the United States, this is a good way to see it in terms of the states. So we looked at the same thing as far as the counties and the states, the percentage of Hispanics. But if you want to look at this at a different way, you can just click on map, and we'll go back to the counties. Then we'll get all the counties in Virginia. Again, this is the percent Hispanic, but we get Chesterfield at the top because that's the county we were looking at. But then we get all the counties in Virginia alphabetically, showing us in a bar graph the percent Hispanic. So we can see here Alexandria City, 16.5%, Amherst County, 2.5% Hispanic, and we can go all the way down through all the counties in the state and look at the percent Hispanic. So this one here, Manassas Park City, which at the county level, well, either way, Manassas City is high in Hispanics, 41%, 38%. That stands out. And then we have a lot with very little bit percent Hispanic, like Pulaski, less than 2%. So you can look at the data in a table, look at the data in a map, and we also just look at the data in a bar chart. We could click dashboard and we get all three. So let's go back to the same one. And we'll get Chesterfield County again. Here on this page, we have the data for Chesterfield County. Then we have the same map. We're looking at, again, at percent Hispanic at the county level, and we have the bar graph. It's all on one page. So this is this would be a good thing if you wanted to share in a report or something, to put this. You're giving the same data in a variety of different ways. And finally, you can share this in email by just clicking that there, or you can embed it in your own web page, or share it on Twitter or Facebook. Put this data for Chesterfield County in a CSV file and then take it over and put it into Excel or print it. So QuickFacts is an easy tool. It gives us a lot of data. Doesn't give us real detailed data. For example, if we wanted the number of 3-year-olds, we can't get that from QuickFacts. We can get that from our other tool, data.census.gov, but we can't get that from QuickFacts. Or if we wanted some more detailed information about, instead of Asians, we want to know the breakdown on Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, etc. We don't have that in QuickFacts, but we can get that in the other tool, data.census.gov. So that's an overview of QuickFacts. It does a lot. It's easy to use. And I'm going to move over to the next data tool now, which is data.census.gov. And data.census.gov it's more comprehensive. It's going to give a lot more detail, but you just have to know a little bit how to use it. Now, in this box here, this is called the simple search box. And if you wanted to do a simple search, you could do a simple search about a geography. So let's take Augusta. Oops. Type in here Augusta County and get some basic information about Augusta County. Almost similar to QuickFacts. We have the total pop is provided right away up here in the top, and it says source 2020 Decennial Census. But if we want to get a profile about Augusta County, something similar to QuickFacts, but looking at it in a different way, all we have to do is come over here, and this gives us a geographic profile for Augusta County. So these are the data topics that you can go to here. So the first one is it always shows you some of the most important data points that people seem to be looking for most oftenly. So total population, median household income, gives you that right off the bat at the top. But if you wanted to get more detailed information, for example, about education, we can go to that, and we have a little bit more detail here. We have percentage of high school or equivalent, some college, associate's degree, bachelor's degree here. So you can see this is a little bit more detailed. And it's also giving us here the percentage in Augusta County with a bachelor's degree or higher and comparing it to the percentage in the state. About double in the state as any of these other ones, and go directly to the disabilities, and not only disabilities but the type of disability. So then these are identified by the respondents themselves, again, not by any Social Security or anything like that, but these are identified by the respondents themselves. So we can see again income and poverty. We could get data here. So this is a geographic profile about Augusta County. And again, we did that simply by going to data.census.gov and typing Augusta in here. You can also put Augusta and income, and it'll show you some tables about income in Augusta. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it in a different way. I want to show you the advanced search. So again, this is data.census.gov. There's two different ways. There's a simple search and advanced search. So I will go to the advanced search. The advanced search gives us filters. It asks us to work with the filters. So let's work with some filters. Let's look at the 2020 census data. I'm going to do years first, 2020. So when I click that, you see that the chip down the bottom went to 2020, which means that the data I'm going to be filtering for is going to be for 2020. And then let's select a geography. Let's select a different county in Virginia this time. So we got to click on county because that's what we want to work with, a county level geography. And with let's select one of the more populated ones, I guess. We'll go with Alexandria. So that's our chip. So here's our year chip filter, our county filter. And let's go with a topic. Let's say populations and people. And we just come over here, populations and people. It gives us another choice. And wherever we see the box, that means that if we click that, that's what's going to filter. So I'm going to click on that. So here we're asking for 2020 data for Alexandria City about its populations and people. And we're going to get the total pop. But and here, if you desire, here's a geographic profile for Alexandria City. We just looked at one of them. But if we want to look at any of the data that's come out already from the 2020 census for Alexandria City, we could look at that. So let's look at race, the race data. And we'll get right off the bat. We have the 2020 census data for Alexandria, the total population. Then we have the population of one race. That is people that identify as with only one race. And we could see white alone, black alone, American Indian, not too many. Native Hawaiian, certainly not too many in Alexandria. But you can use this to get this kind of information. This is just race data here we're looking at. And then it goes on population of two or more races. So these people identified as two or more races, but this is quite detailed in that it gives you all these different combinations of two or more races. So not only say black or African American and American Indian, but black or African American and Asian, black or African American, Native Hawaiian, etc. All of these different possible combinations for two, and then some people identify as three races. Not many, but you have the data for that, as well as four races and five races, and not many as we get down here. But this is, again, we're using data.census.gov. We filtered for 2020 census, we filtered for Alexandria City, and we filtered for race. Let's go back and we'll do something else with data.census.gov here. Let's go to advanced search. Now, I mentioned to you that you can get data from the American Community Survey at the lower, smaller geographic level. So I'm not going into it this particular time, or maybe the next time we have the presentation on the ACS, we'll look closer at the geographies. But the smallest geography that the ACS provides data for is the Census Tract and then the block group. So why don't we look at the Census Tracts? That would almost be like the neighborhoods in one of the larger cities in Virginia. We'll go with Richmond. So I'm going to start with this. I could start with years. It doesn't matter what you start with, but I'm going to be looking for the 2019 data. So you see my chip down the bottom. Then I'm going to look at Richmond, but in Virginia, the cities are recognized as counties. They're independent cities. So I know that I can find Richmond City by going to county here. And again, I'm in Virginia. And I can find Richmond City here. Oops. So I know there's a Richmond City and a Richmond County, two different places. I'm going to go with Richmond City. I'll say Richmond City County because I'm looking at it at the county level. And then, so I got 2019 data for Richmond City, and this time I want to use a topic. I'm interested in Richmond City if there's a lot of variety in the income throughout around the city. So I'm going to go to topics income and poverty, and income and poverty. So I have three filters again: 2019, Richmond, income and poverty. When I hit search, I'm going to get a lot of different tables that have that information in it. First, I'm going to get the median household income in Richmond, as well as remember the geographic profile. We can go look at that. But I'm going to look at income in the past 12 months. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back and look at something here. I realized I made a little bit of mistake here. My geography, I don't want county, I want tract. Tract in Virginia, in Richmond City, and then I'm going to have an opportunity to pick the tract. So I can pick a individual tract, or I can pick all the tracts. I'm going to pick all the tracts. Here we go. So now we have all the tracts. The years again, 2019, and the topic again was income. And now we're back to where we need to be. We're going to look at tract level data in Richmond. So I'm going to click on, these are all the different tables that have that information in it. All right, we have median income in the past 12 months, median income, poverty status, everything and anything to do with income. Here, in all of these tables are available to us. I'm interested in median income in the past 12 months in all of the tracts in Richmond. So here's the information here. We have this information here. Let me slide over a little bit. Median income household. So first we have, this table's big, but we're going to look at it in a different way. First we have the number of households, right? And then, so that would be the median income in those households. This is all for one census tract, and that happens to be Census Tract 102. So numerically, that's the first census tract in Richmond. And when we go under median income for Census Tract 102, $51,000. So then we go to Census Tract 103 and find that same category, median income, $23,000. So, and then Census Tract 104, all the way over to all the different census tracts in Richmond. So if we needed that information, we could download this into a Excel file and we can work with it. We can, before we download it, we can modify the table as well. But I want to show you one of the things here. Remember that ACS gives us estimates, not an exact count. So when we look at the estimated number of households in Census Tract 102, we're also given a margin of error. And the margin of error is because this is an estimate. So this would mean that in Census Tract 102, that there's 2,214 households plus or minus 192 households. That's at the 90% confidence interval. So if you only want the data and you don't want the margin of error, you just come to customize table and you can click the margin of error and that goes away. This is a toggle switch to get rid of all the margin of error columns. And then you can download it without that if that's what you so need. But what I wanted to do here was to show you the same data in an easier way. Instead of looking at it, take all across, we'll look at it in a map. And this is a little bit more detail of a map. This is Richmond City. And these are all the tracts that lie within. So when we say tracts again, we mean usually don't change from decade to decade. So 704, what did it look like in 2010? What did it look like in 2000? It's still Census Tract 704. There's some occasions where the tracts have to be split because they have a population threshold. But anyway, we're looking at the median household income in Richmond. And this is median household income for Hispanics. So that we could say here, we could change this variable as well. Instead, if we don't want median household income for Hispanics, we could change this to any of the other categories that we want. But we want median household income. We'll use it for median household income for Hispanics, since that's there. And that's what we have. Now we have a map again with a legend, and you can see that the Hispanics that live in the darker areas of the city here, let's zoom in a bit more, and you can start to see the roads when you zoom in. The Hispanics that live in the darker areas here have a household income, right, have a higher income than the Hispanics that live in the lighter areas here. So that would be one of the things that you can get from that. You can break this down by household income by race, other races as well, by going here and clicking on the different variables. So if we wanted to look at that for Asians, I don't know that there's not too many Asians in where we at. We're in Richmond. There's not too many Asians there, but for those that are there, the ones that live working here, that's just the count of Asians. The ones that work in here have a higher household income. So that is one of the things that you can do with quick facts. I'm sorry, this is data.census.gov. So I'll be glad to show this again when we do the next presentation. There's one other tool I wanted to show you that strictly has data for the Decennial Census. Out of that, and come back here. And that is this tool. It's called the Census Demographic Data Map Viewer. And we'll provide you with the website, but this gives a lot of information. This is from the 2020 census. So if you're interested in race data, this will be the percent white. We happen to be looking at percent white, but we could change that to percent Black or African American or any of the other racial categories. Let's go with percent African American. So we can see when we're looking at the states here, the states down here in the Southeast have, and looks like Maryland, those states have a higher percentage of African Americans, right? You can see that because it's the darker color, and you can see the lighter ones have some of them less than 5% African American. But if we zoom in here, we can get to the county level. We'll work on Virginia here. We'll get to the county level, and then we'll eventually get to the Census Tract level. Here we're at the county level. So same thing now. We're looking at percent Black or African American. We could see that whatever these counties are down here, Sussex and Brunswick, they have a higher percentage of Black or African Americans than the other counties that are here. And we can also keep zooming in and start to look at the Census Tract. So the more we zoom in, the smaller the geography will become. You're getting there. So now we're at the Census Tract level, and you can see we're in the area of Charlottesville. Again, percentage. I've clicked up here, Black or African American, so you can see the tracts. Now this would be tract 501 in Charlottesville, and this would be tract 7 in Charlottesville. The tracts are also there in this data tool, that 2020 Census Demographic Data Map Viewer. And you can, if you needed to get that information, or not only race, but Hispanic origin, or information on housing or group quarters, all that's available in here. So just wanted to point that out to you. These are the percentage of occupied housing units by state. And you can see that here. So that's really where I want to stop here for now. Just go back to the total population to see if there's any questions, or if there's anything, Susan, that if you have anything, or if anything came up in the chat, I'm not sure.
Sure,
Is there?
yes, and great information. And there was a question here, and the question is for census quick facts. It says ages 5 and under, and then there's a line item for ages 18 and under. And the question is the 5 and under included in the 18 and under statistics?
Yes, that would be. Yes, because 18 and under would include that. Yes.
Okay, great, great. And we had another question, and I did respond live and reminded folks that they can reach out to you directly. Joe, if you're able to pull up the slide deck, we can show folks where and how to stay connected with us, as well as the other data trainings and resources that we have. So the slide in front of you showing that additional data training and our resources, whether it's Census Academy, which is on demand information, webinars, and quick learn sessions for you whenever you'd like. They're available 24/7. Our Data Gems, which is a series of how-to videos that are available for data users. If you're looking for that quick and easy way to enhance your knowledge of census data, we have a variety of courses, again, webinars, live and recorded. So on that webinar page, and when you click that hyperlink, it will show you the upcoming webinars, as well as ones that have already taken place on a variety of topics. Joe just showed you the demographic data map viewer, and that link is right there. You can spend a lot of time on that census tool. It is very resourceful and incredibly insightful. Everything starts at census.gov, so directing your attention to the top right-hand side of that slide, census.gov right there. During the 2020 decennial, we looked at our self-response rate viewer map to track those self-responses in communities all across the country. And keeping in mind self-response reflects those folks, those households that responded to the 2020 decennial, either online, by phone, or returning their paper form in the mail. Joe mentioned Census Quick Facts, and the link is right there, as well as data.census.gov and the American Community Survey. Again, reminding that in 2 weeks, we'll be right back here on December 2nd with a deep dive look into the American Community Survey and how you as journalists can pull that information from the ACS into your stories to really make them rich and robust. And finally, a guide to navigating through the American Community Survey. Next slide. And we'll go one more, that's our Q&A slide. But again, any questions regarding methodology or pending litigation or data quality should be directed to our PIO office at pio@census.gov. And of course, we welcome you to stay connected with the U.S. Census Bureau through any of our social media channels or by subscribing. We have also a newsletter that we put out. You can opt in and opt out to a variety of topics as well. Our Census Bureau newsroom, America Counts Stories. We have a variety of blogs as well as stats for stories for you. Very, very helpful for journalists. And at the bottom there, you'll see data training sessions such as the one we conducted today. We're happy to conduct those data training sessions for you, either one-on-one, if you'd like a closer look at how to use any of those data tools or products, or for your newsroom perhaps, or maybe you serve on a board of directors or have an affiliation with any universities or any other businesses or organizations. We are happy and available to present to you and within your network. And again, there is no cost for any of these data trainings. Next slide, please. Before I conclude, I do want to add with those trainings, we can customize those. So as we did today, Census Bureau data and resources for media, we can customize those as well as run those from 30, 60, or 90 minutes, depending on how detailed you'd like to be. They are hands-on and again, can be customized whether you are a novice data user or an experienced data user. So you see on the slide in front of you the contact information for both Joe and myself. We welcome your questions at any time. Feel free to email or call us. And we do thank you for your time today. And Dina, thank you again so much for coordinating this presentation series. We do appreciate that. And again, we'll be back on December 2nd at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. as we take a closer look at the American Community Survey and how members of the media can find and extract that data and use the visualizations and the charts and the graphs to really bring the stories to life. So with that said, Dina, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thanks, Susan and Joe, for such a great presentation. And thanks to everybody who joined us today. Just wanted to let you know, everyone who registered for the series will automatically receive a link in advance of the webinar. And we hope to see you 10 a.m. December 2nd for the final session of this series. And I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.